We're live. Excellent. Well, good morning, afternoon, or evening. Hello, guys. My name is Alex. I'm with VeChain Builders, and as a lot of you know, we launched a hackathon just over 7 days ago, and we hosted the launch event, and we covered a lot of these things. But ever since, we've seen a lot of you in the Telegram community and in different communities, just asking very similar questions. So something that we noticed is that we could cover a halfway point event, so that we can cover the trickiest elements of the hackathon, and just see if we can answer any of the questions that you guys may have. Okay. One of the main things to take in consideration is this is going to be quite generic. Let's say we're going to try and cover as much as possible, but it is important as well that if you guys have a different build, or you've got a different system and you've started building your application a different way, best thing is to come over to Telegram. So let me move on this slide, because at the top right above my head you're going to see a Telegram QR code. You should be able to see it there. If you're on Twitter and you cannot scan the QR code, of course, you can go to either VeChain Builders and you will see the link tree there where you can join us, or on academy.vechain.org. There's plenty of places where you can find the official Telegram link. Okay, it's also in the YouTube description. So super important, especially during this time, join only the official links. Okay, so either QR code, which is if you're on YouTube on your computer, you'll be able to scan it. If not, just make sure that you use the official links. And there we've got a group of mentors. We've also shared the schedule where you can book some time with the mentors. Use them wisely, right? So don't use that to pitch your project or try to get ahead on the hackathon. It's not a judges meeting. You would be meeting with mentors directly from the VeChain Foundation that we will be able to help you with any blockers or any questions that might not be covered here or on the community. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, there's a bunch of things that we need to cover, and we'll start again with a very high-level overview of VeBetter. How can we submit an app? To submit an application on TESTNET, it will be approved immediately, and for this hackathon, that's all you need, just a TESTNET app. And for mainnet, there's a longer process, and it takes a bit longer to get that approved, but still, worth to be familiar with all of that process. Okay, there's a long form VeBetter live stream that we hosted, and it's also on the same playlist as this live stream. Then we're gonna cover a brief description, just an overview of basic contract structure, things that you need to cover. We're going to go through a few guardrails and elements that are, just good to have, because it will demonstrate that you have built this application for the longer term. This built for to be maintained over time, and also that is, you can prove that you're good at developing in this case. Hardhat setup, we've got a lot of templates, and we'll cover this, but a lot of the templates that we've got on the academy.vechain.org and the repo examples that we've shared, and also we had a full stack live stream that we were covering Hardhat. We were really quick in covering this, so a lot of you might be at the point where you've built your application and you are a bit confused as to how to implement this. So we'll cover that as well. And then finally, just covering how to submit those proofs and reward your users. Okay. Before we start with the content of this workshop, reminder, the deadline for submissions is 11:59, so 1 minute before midnight on Sunday, 5th of October. Okay. And it will be 11:59 UTC. Okay, don't be late. A lot of you might be, trying to code everything on Saturday and Sunday and trying to deliver it. Make sure that if you've got questions, you're on Telegram, you're asking us for support. We're available. So please make sure that you make use of all of that. And reminder as well, so we're requesting for a minimum of 2 people in your team. This is because there's a lot to do. It's not just to build your app. There's also a pitch deck. You need to do a video demonstration, and you need also to submit the repo, etc. Right? So there's several things you need to cover. The official link for the hackathon is also in the description of this video. And you can also find a lot of details on academy.vechain.org. And another reminder is that there's $30,000 of worth of rewards, and we've got 3 different tracks, and we'll see that in a moment. So let's take a really quick look at that. How about that? There we go. So first track, it's to build applications that incentivize daily habits that are good for people. So you're building an application that just does good for others. Okay, the second track, we've got very similar, building daily sustainable habits that are good for the planet. And then the third one, and I guess that's a bit the broadest track that we've got, is just expanding the VeChain ecosystem. And here it's a bit more open, and you can, you may build a game, you may build some DeFi applications, liquid stake, and that kind of thing. So this is a bit more open. This is why I strongly suggest that you come in on Telegram, you ask questions, you book some time with the mentors, and then we can make sure that you're on track with each of those tracks. But yeah, so once again, you've got the QR code right up there. Scan it, join us, and if you are on Twitter, you can just go to the official VeChain Builders profile, and then you can get it right there. I'm repeating a lot, but it's super important that you use the official links. We want to make sure that everybody is staying safe. Like we said, there's $30,000 worth of rewards. So that means there is $10,000 split on each of these tracks. No more reminders. That is all you needed to be reminded of about the hackathon. Remember, we've got less than 7 days to complete and submit your builds, and we are accepting the submissions only through Dora Hacks, okay? And the official link is in the description of the video. Now, that's out of the way. If you're joining right now, once again, my name is Alex from VeChain Builders, and this is what we're going to be covering. So we'll start with VeBetter. Okay, it's really important that your application, at least on the 2 first tracks, so building for people or building for the planet, that you integrate the VeBetter. Okay, is one of these criteria that we've included as part of the judging process. If you want to see then all the criteria in detail, we hosted a live stream last Monday, 7 days ago, with all of those details, and you can also find them on academy.vechain.org, where you can see all those the different points of that criteria. Okay, now VeBetter has a lot of applications. This was also covered, but just a really quick reminder, it covers a lot of things, and you can see just here how not everything is good for the planet, for example. So it might be other things that are better for people. So on the community side of things, yes, we're doing that would fall under the second track, which is building sustainability, sustainable actions of everyday life that are good for the planet. So on the commuting side, so incentivizing people to use less the car and more if they've got an electric vehicle, or using public transport instead of their car when possible, of course. Or you've got for people, for example, Build Your Body is one of those newer applications that are incentivizing people for a better lifestyle. Now, this is something that is quite important, and we've actually seen a few people still slightly confused as to how to do this. So I'd like to submit a demo application so you can all follow along, because there's a few elements that we need to cover. Okay, first is to go to the TESTNET dashboard on the VeBetter DAO. And for this, if you don't have it already, we've seen a couple of questions in the community. The wallet to use, and this is the go-to, is going to be VWorld. Okay, if you've been developing on Ethereum, you may be a bit more comfortable with MetaMask. So in this case, we suggest going on to VWorld, Takes 2 seconds to install on your browser, and it will be the fastest way that you can get onboarded. So how about we do that? Let's quickly take a look at, well, here I was talking about the Academy. We'll show you that later. Here we go. So this is the VeBetter dashboard. Okay, so as soon as you connect your wallet, and let me connect my wallet so you can see the entire process from scratch, it should look like this. So top right corner, you should see that connect wallet option. I'll go with VWorld, and your VWorld extension should pop up, and you'll see that it's 2 seconds. Excellent. And as easy as that. There we go. Now we're in, and this is our dashboard. So first thing that you need to do, we'll go to the Add Now option. And yes, we're going to be submitting a test application. And here's where we obtain our app ID. Super important, because this is what we need to include when we are deploying our contract in our application. Okay, so let's go there straight away and see. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to call this, I don't know, I'll call it Hardhat. Why not? Hardhat. We can leave the description empty for now. And how about we just add this URL? Why not? There we go. Now, as your admin address, you can use the same wallet that you use to sign up. So here we go. And I'll add as a treasury address for now. I'm going to add this as well. In terms of logos, I've prepared a couple logos over here. So I'm going to use this open book. And then just quickly, I'm going to use this. Okay. And you will see in just a couple seconds, this will be submitted. If you're submitting to mainnet, it's not required for the hackathon, but if you are, there is a longer process. And there's a full description and guidance on academy.vechain.org. And so I suggest you guys going through that at your own time. Again, it's not a requirement for this hackathon. Okay, if you submit it to TESTNET, that's all you need. And as you can see, we get this app ID. Okay, this is your application's dashboard. And if you want to see how that looks like or how to access it from the main dashboard, here we go. You've got your applications. We'll go to see all because I've got 3 of them. And then I'll just load my Hardhat application. Okay, and that's your app ID. Very important. We'll come back to this later on, but just for you to know what we need to do for this. Now, second step, just as a reminder, we need to claim VeBetter tokens. Okay, we need to make sure that our application has rewards to distribute to users. So let's go back, and you will see on the main dashboard there is a faucet. Okay, so we'll claim VeBetter tokens. There we go, and it asks for a very small gas fee payment. I'm hoping that a lot of you might already be aware as to how to get this, but let's finish with VeBetter, and then I'll show you how you can get more TESTNET tokens. And that's all. Okay, now our application has some, well, it doesn't have tokens yet actually. Let's go and finish the process. So we want to go here, and I want to make sure that I deposit, right? So I claimed some tokens. The tokens are in my wallet, but we need to make sure that our app also has tokens to distribute. Okay, so I'm gonna deposit everything that I've just claimed. And with this, you should be good to go. Great, that's all. So in terms of VeBetter, the admin side of VeBetter, this is what you need to know. Okay, now let's say that you are still on the stage where you've never had a VWorld wallet and you've not claimed tokens. We've got a separate faucet, and you've got the URL as displayed up there. So faucet.vechain.in, so faucet.vechain. And the official link is also in the description of this video. Okay. Now, let me quickly show over here. So the best thing that you can do is just claim some tokens. You'll see how easy it is. We're going to sign this. Okay, and then we should see that about 86. There we go. Now we've got a few more gas tokens and more value tokens over there. And that's all. That's what we needed on this side of things. Now, when it comes to VeBetter, there's a bunch of things that we need to do over here. Okay, so one of them is making sure that we're setting up a contract or wallet address that will distribute those rewards. And we can also emulate how those allocations look like. So first thing that I want to do is we can add a moderator. In my case, I want to add this moderator. Let me add the wallet address for my moderator. It's important because a moderator will, oops, let me just get this wallet address. The moderator is the role of the role that will essentially approve that distribution, and then we need a rewards distributor. Okay, here I want to add the smart contract that I'm going to be working for my application. Okay, so we're going to leave this empty for just a second. For that, talking about the contracts and me wanting to add this smart contract, let's quickly go back and look at some Solidity. So this is how it should have looked. There we go. So we added the moderators. Moderator is the same wallet address that I used for signing up. And then I'm going to leave my rewards distributor empty for now. Okay. And let's take a really quick look at how this looks like. So for contract anatomy, now in 7 days, it's going to be a bit difficult for you to learn Solidity enough to create a strong smart contract. Now, something that there's a possibility is to join an existing team. We've got a bunch of participants that are asking for team members. We've got an option to find a team on Dora Hacks as well. So once again, I invite you all to come over to Telegram, because that's where you're going to be able to find also someone that could potentially help you. And also, of course, you know, just come in and ask for help to our mentors. The mentors will be able to help you out with anything, any blockers, etc. Okay, and one of those things that we need to do before we start is, again, going to the faucet, claiming some tokens, because you're going to need those to deploy your contract. Now, this is where it starts getting a bit more interesting. Okay, there is a set of public addresses of contracts that you can add to your smart contract to do that pull of rewards. Okay, so one of those is over on the documentation for VeBetter. If you scroll down to our test environment, where's our test environment? There is a full list of public smart contract on TESTNET. Okay. In fact, for our application, for our demo app, we use this smart contract. So we'll see that in just a moment. Okay. But going back, we've got this interface that we're creating to import that X to earn rewards pool contract. So let's see how that looks like in practice. So we've got our basic contract structure over here, and we're bringing in, you know, that X to earn rewards pool. And then we also need to include the distribute rewards. Here we go, distribute reward function. Why? Because the X to earn rewards pool contract has this function, which is the distribute reward, that includes those 4 mandatory parameters. Okay, the app ID is the app ID that we've covered when submitting your TESTNET application. The reward amount is a reward that we set for each of those actions that your users are completing on your app. And then the address, in this case, we call it student address because this is a learn to earn application and we're calling our users students, but this could just be the user's address, okay? And with this, it will be the most important items that people seem to be forgetting to add to their contracts, okay? We'll cover the anatomy of the contract a bit more in depth in just a second, okay? And this is the other function, because this is the step that we need to take before we start coding our contract. If you've already started, it's absolutely fine. It's not a problem at all, okay? If you've already started your app from, if you're a front-end developer, app developer, and you already have a sample contract, it's absolutely fine because I'm going to show you as well how you can get started. So we've got a bunch of dependencies that we need to add. For example, we need to install Hardhat, of course. And then VeChain has a Hardhat plugin as well on the SDK. So we'll cover those. There is a very specific way that we need to update the Hardhat config file, okay? And then the two final steps, and this will leave it until the end of the workshop, how to compile the contract so we get it ready to be deployed to testnet, okay? Consider that the deploy function, as you can see, says npx hardhat run, and then there is a file path. Your deploy script will be potentially different as well, so make sure that you do update that path right there, okay? And actually, I'm going to be showing you how it may look slightly different, for your application. This is a test app that you see here. Just a really quick shout out to the fact that we're using the VeChain kit over here, and we've got a full workshop where we're covering this. Our colleague Reese did a very in-depth live stream covering all the steps that you need to follow in order to include VeChain kit. Super important for user onboarding. And I've got this very simple app already included. And as you can see, I do not have any contracts included anywhere. So let me quickly open the terminal and let's create a contracts. Wait, what happened? Oops, I see what happened. There we go. Excellent. Now we've got our new contracts folder. And here's where we can actually start installing our dependencies. So let's do npm install Hardhat. If you're new to Hardhat, while this is loading, we do have the course in the Academy. Okay, and this is an in-depth course over here. So if you go to academy.vechain.org, under templates, we've got a full Hardhat course where we're covering everything that you need to include Hardhats to compile and deploy your contract, even if you already started your application, okay? Alternatively, there is also a command that you can use on your terminal. So it's npm create VeChain dApp, and then that will give you also the option to create an application that already includes the settings required for Hardhat on your application, okay? So if you haven't started yet, you can use one of the VeChain templates. It's already ready for you to start. And if you started, and we're hoping that you started already because, we've got just under 7 days, best thing will be just to quickly create a new directory for contracts, and then we'll start installing all the dependencies, okay? As you can see, we've installed Hardhat. Now let's install the VeChain SDK. Okay. Like this, SDK, Hardhat plugin. Now that this is done, we're going to initiate Hardhat. Okay, and this, you will see that the Hardhat terminal opens up, okay? This is a brand new project, so obviously we want to use the new version of Hardhat. we can keep it in that directory that we created, which is contracts, and we'll use TypeScript. Yes. And in just a second, you will see the directory being prepared for us. There we go. I don't want to run it right now. Great. So, as you can see, we've got a series of options over here, right? So we've got contracts, like we said, you were going to have a sample contract. Let me close this. And like you saw earlier on the other application, and we'll see it in a moment, we first need to obviously include the Solidity version. And before defining our contract, okay, in this case, it's contract for us will be learn to earn contract. Before that, we need to include the interface. Okay, so this will be interface for X to earn rewards pool. Okay, ignore that for now, but this is how it would be. Also, like we said, we've got this on the scripts. Okay, this will be our scripts to deploy our contracts and also include some tests. Okay, so once you've included your Hardhat on your application, this is how your directory should look like. Now, for us, we've been working on a app template, which includes Hardhat already. So for us, we've got our contract. We've already renamed it to Learn to Earn, and we've got our own custom script. Now, up to here, I think that we're pretty much the same as our template. It just includes a few more, console logs just to make it a bit more user-friendly, and we've included as well confirmation of our deployment transaction. Okay, so we can access the contract as soon as it's been deployed. Now, when it comes to the Hardhat config file, this is something that we briefly mentioned earlier. This is super important. Your Hardhat config, and I'll show you in just a second, needs to include, of course, TESTNET at least, and this is your basic setting. So under networks, just include TESTNET, and you can also include mainnet. Why is that? So if we take a look at how this looks like on Hardhat, as soon as we've installed it, our Hardhat config includes the default Hardhat configuration and is not ready for VeChain. As you can see on the networks, we've got mainnets and testnets already set up on Hardhat, right? And we've got here the Sepolia net for Hardhat. So for us, that will not work. So we need to make sure that our setup is ready for VeChain. How can you accelerate all of this? You've got the link in the description with a direct link to the official template that we prepared for you to get started. And as simple as in the root directory, you've got a Hardhat config file where you can just quickly copy those settings. Why is this important? Because when we are deploying our contracts, and you saw it earlier on the deploy command, we also select the network. So as you can see, we call it network VeChain underscore testnet. If we wanted the mainnet, so same way that we've got over here, we would just use the network mainnet. So now that we've got our Hardhat configuration ready, okay, and also we've included the interface for the X to earn rewards pool, and we are also including the distribution of rewards using our the interface and the mandatory requirements for the distribute rewards function. We need to make sure that we've got a few elements included in the contract. Now, this, again, it doesn't mean that your contract will be better or worse, or it will be voted worse or better. But there's certain guardrails that we need to make sure that we're including on our contract. Okay, and things like that. It could be making sure that we're not rewarding the same person twice, and for this we need to emit certain events. Okay, so if an event's been if a certificate for us would be if a reward has been issued, for example, or if the submissions have been reviewed, okay, to also reduce the amount of work on the moderator. And for that, we need to make sure that we are also adding certain guardrails. For example, our sample contract includes something like someone cannot sign up twice. Okay, so we need to start adding certain barriers for farmers that might want, just to extract value from the application. So, we just make sure that the same wallet hasn't been added twice. So what this means is that, we're adding a few complications for users to, extract value. We also need to, of course, have the submit proof, but making sure that the submission has not been graded twice, as well as the distribution, right? If the rewards have been distributed already, we don't want to distribute to the same person twice. What else have we got? We've got items such as, of course, making sure that we update the app ID. You can see how we created an app on TESTNET, but let's say, your application, you lose access to that particular wallet that you use to sign up to the VeBetter dashboard. It could be that you lose your laptop, hopefully not, but it's just to make sure that you've got that option in case you need to update the app ID linked to this contract. And then finally, of course, making sure that only the contract owner can withdraw funds. Okay, these are some examples of functions, of course, with a bit more time. And if you've got other ideas to certain guardrails of functions that can be added to your contract, feel free to do so. But it is super important as well, and that's what the judges would like to see, is that you're not just distributing rewards, but that you are thinking strategically about how you distribute those rewards, right? It's really easy just to get people quickly come in, take an action, just onboard loads of users en masse. But it is super important that you are setting certain house rules to make sure that people are not coming in and extracting all the value of this application, right? One super important narrative that we've had on VeChain for a long time is we need to make sure that we bring people en masse. Of course, we want to see the submissions covering as wide a market as possible. But of course, we need to make sure that we are avoiding bad actors. So please bear that in mind. You've got this repo example in the description of this video, and you'll be able to see some of the ideas that we included as to how we want not just to distribute rewards, but also making sure that you're thinking about every single aspect of the reward distribution, okay? And the reward distribution is not just purely giving cash to people, but also making sure that they're not farming for the sake of taking cash away from your app. Now, let's quickly go back, because I think I rumbled a little bit for a second, but what you can see here is we've got the import of the X to earn rewards pool contract. We've got certain guardrails, of course, and we've got a custom function that makes sure that, of course, that we've got our app ID and that the app has funds. We already added funds, as you saw earlier a few minutes ago. And of course, the proof is not empty. Okay, another really important guardrail over here, right? It's really easy just to fake some of these things. So let's make sure that all the mandatory parameters for that function are included. Now, just to briefly take you back to the slides, just to recap this part of Hardhat, we've installed the dependencies. We created a directory that we called contracts, for example, where we included also the Hardhat template and the off-the-shelf modules where you can start with a contract and you've got already a Hardhat config file. And then we also looked at how that Hardhat config file should look like. Okay, just before I move on, your config file should look like it has the correct networks added to the file, and those are like this. Here we go. So you've got TESTNET. Reminder that VeChain actually upgraded from Paris to Shanghai. Okay, so the EVM version has been updated. We had a brief look at this file back in August, I believe, and it was when we were covering the full stack. The settings were still on Shanghai. I'll make sure that the repository includes Shanghai, but just something to consider that you can just change that from Paris to Shanghai. And of course, having VeChain testnet and VeChain mainnet. Finally, we've got to compile and deploy the contract. Okay. Before we do that, I want to take you back to VeBetter. Okay. We mentioned briefly that we need to take this app ID. So how about we take the app ID and we can add it to our env file. Okay, so I will take my app ID and I want to add it on my env file. I'll add it here so you guys can see it. We've got one of those variables is the app ID, so you can just simply remove this part and I'll add my app ID. Okay, no problem with showing you this because this is a test ID, app and I'll remove it later. But here are the most important variables that you need to add. Okay, your VeChain private key, of course. We need a moderator key over here as well. And please make sure that it's the same wallet that you used for signing up to VeBetter, not for anything else, but just to keep things consistent and making sure that you don't have loads of wallets going around. And then also we'll need our contract address over here. Okay. So now that we've got all of this, let's look at compiling our contract. So we'll open the terminal and you will see in the repo, you will see that we can use a different command. We can use npm run compile, but just to stay consistent with the material of this video and also on the Academy, we'll use this, which should work exactly the same. npx hardhat compile. This usually takes a bit of time. It will not cost you any gas, but it will just prepare your contract to be deployed to the network. Once again, just while it's being compiled, please guys, remember that you can go to the Academy to access the Hardhat materials. We've got a bunch of resources for the hackathon. And of course, you've got all the information on the criteria. Okay. If at any point you've got any questions, just to remind you, while the contract is being compiled, you can just go to Telegram. Just come over. You've got that QR code up above my head, and all you need to do is just ask, of course. Now, our contract has been compiled. So next thing that we need to do is here. Let's deploy it. Now, my contract, as you can see, is on my deploy script, sorry, is on scripts deploy.js. Okay, so I can show you that. And when you access the repo example, you will see that this is our deploy example. Okay. It's been slightly customized compared to the off-the-shelf deploy script the Hardhat gives you, but it's just to make sure that, for example, that we're adding our own app ID, that we're including the external rewards pool contract, and then there's a few fancier console logs if you're just deploying this, but you're doing this for yourself at the moment, so you don't need a lot of these things right there. Okay. But just for you to see how that looks like, we can do npx Hardhat run, and then I'm gonna add the directory deploy.js. Remember that we need the network flag, and we're gonna deploy it on VeChain underscore testnet. Okay, testnet. Now, this will take a couple moments. So remember that to deploy the contract, we're going to be launching this to, we're going to be deploying this to mainnet, to testnet. So for this, we need some tokens. And remember that you can get some of those tokens on the faucet. Scripts, deploy.js. Let's see. Aha, excellent. So there is an error. Let me show you the error that I'm getting at the moment. Over here. So we've got a slight error because we're using different different wallets over here. So I'll go ahead and fix that later on. But what we need to know is that once we deploy the contract, all we need is just to go over here and we add our contract address right here. Okay. Once we've got our contract address, which is over here. Okay. This contract address publicly available. This is what we want to make sure that you all have access to for VeBetter. So once you've deployed your contract, we need to go back to our settings on our app. And like we said, we need to add a rewards distributor. Over here, I want to make sure that we add our contract. And that's all that we needed for the distribution. And we'll save the changes. Here we go. I'll quickly go to, let me see. Guys, there's, let's see, so there's about 1,800 of you, or 1,600 of you. I'm sure you've got questions. Please drop them in the chat. I'm going to be keeping an eye out on Twitter, on YouTube, and then we've got a few colleagues that are keeping an eye out on the chat as well. Please drop your questions. Make sure that you're asking. I'm here if you're stuck, if something is confusing. There we go. Excellent. And if not, as always, we can just remind you to go to Telegram to ask questions. Quick thing is, your build is going to be slightly different from what you saw today. Okay, and I'm sure that you maybe had a complete different way of doing the application itself. So best thing is just to come to Telegram and ask us some questions. I see that a few of you are coming in right now, so yeah, just go and ask some questions. We've got Reese quite active in the chat right now, so before we go into this, excellent. I want to make sure that you guys remember everything that we've been covering over here, because we did quite a bit. So just to recap, we've submitted an application. In my case was a test app. So the best thing is to go to this URL to make sure that you can get your app ID. Okay, for this you need a vWorld. Again, if you're coming from the EVM space, you're going to be way ahead of the game because you're very familiar with Solidity. So all you need to make sure is just to have a new wallet, so vWorld, to be able to claim some testnet tokens and be able to add those funds to your application. Something else that we've done is we've briefly covered some of that Solidity anatomy. Remember that we needed to add the X to earn rewards pool contract to our contract, and then we also have things like the distribute reward, making sure that we're covering every single mandatory parameter that is required to distribute rewards. Next, we've looked at Hardhat. If you started your application and you didn't use the Hardhat template that we provide, so remember it's npm create VeChain dApp, you can implement Hardhat on your application just by following these steps. Okay, remember that one of the steps that we created just for repository tidiness, we created a separate folder called contracts, and that's where we added everything. Okay, so final step, we compile with npx hardhat compile, and then we deploy to testnet. And as a final thing, we also well, we didn't look at this actually, so we can really quickly take a brief look at how this looks like. Now, when we are submitting rewards on VeChain, we need to prepare a simple transaction. Okay, so to build a transaction, we've got a full workshop also in this playlist that is covering how you can write your write a transaction on VeChain. There's several steps, so please make sure that you follow all of those steps, right? But the final step that we've got here is to build the transaction body, and this is where we call and we get all of those parameters that we've got here. Okay, you can see the sample. You can see this sample transaction script on the official docs for VeBetter. Okay. Over here. So you've got a sample over here. So once again, and this is something that actually to me, it was slightly confusing until I got my head around. We need to get the data from our users when they're giving us the data. So for example, for us, it's to learn to earn. And so people need to submit the proof of learning. So we need to get that data from the front end. We prepare that information as a transaction and we shoot it to the network. Okay. And this is where then on our contract, we need to process all of the steps to be able to distribute the rewards. There is one thing that we haven't covered too well just yet, and that is in our contract, grading a submission. So generally we recommend, and for best practices, when someone is submitting a proof of having completed your incentivized action, to have a group of team members that would be your moderators. Again, as you could see on the VeBetter dashboard, you need to include moderators. Make sure that you've got people that are going to be verifying that the proof that's been submitted is correct. For us, we want to make sure that the code that's being submitted is of the best quality, that it follows particular guardrails, and of course we could use AI for this, and it's on the roadmap for this application. But until we get there, we want to make sure that we've got a moderator, so that role that will receive all the submissions and then it will be grading them to distribute the rewards. So we can actually briefly do that with a here. You will see one of those examples over here. So on the README file of this sample application, you will see the command to be able to approve a submission or to reject the submission. Okay, so these are things, of course, that we would ideally have an UI for. Here we go. You will have a UI for, but you know, just for today, we'll keep it like this. Let me quickly run our server so we make sure that our application does connect to our local database and that we've got access to all our submissions. And now you can see some of those submissions over here. And as you can see, we've got 3 submissions. I will just pick the second submission, why not? And I want to quickly distribute some rewards to this user. So the user is Eman, and they submitted, again, that was me, of course, the Learn to Earn application. So we can reward some tokens to this user. So once we push the command, we should be able to distribute those rewards to Eman. And there we go. So let me just bring it to a slight close, so we can leave some room for questions if there's any. First thing first, hackathon opened up 7 days ago on Monday, and it will run until Sunday this week. Once again, 1 minute before midnight on the 5th of October. So we've added there October the 6th, but 1 minute before October the 6th it comes, really. So remember that there's $30,000 worth of rewards across 3 different tracks, and you need to go over to Dora Hacks, and I'll share the QR code in just a moment. You go to Dora Hacks and sign up as a hacker, and then submit your application. In fact, if you go to Twitter, both on the official VeChain account as well as on VeBetter and on Reese's account, so VeChain's DevRel, he already shared how to sign up as a hacker and how to submit your application. Okay. Now back to the workshop itself. We've briefly covered some anatomy of Solidity, as well as how to integrate VeBetter. And there is a full workshop on VeBetter as well on the playlist on YouTube. However, you could see how we've created an application, how we got the app ID, and how we needed to add it to our smart contract to make sure that we're distributing rewards and getting rewards from the correct application. That integration of X to earn rewards pool is a very simple interface that we add to the contract, but we need to make sure as well that we've got the transaction written, and we prepare the transaction from the front end to distribute it to the network. Then, once the transaction has been pushed to the network and the moderator has reviewed the submissions, then the grade submission and distribute reward function is activated so that the user receives their VeBetter tokens. Finally, we of course have to collect the user submissions, and we do that on the front end, and we also need their wallet. There is a very comprehensive VeChain kit workshop in this playlist that essentially covers how you can get a very easy wallet connect onto your application, in which we can, collect the user's wallet address so we know where to distribute those rewards. Now, let me bring it over to the Dora Hacks QR code, and I'd love to be able to answer some questions if there's any. So I'll be opening up the live stream on my end. Here we go. And please drop your questions if you've got any. One thing that we've been recommended to everybody is to submit your project as early as possible. Once you've submitted it, you can always adapt and make the changes. You need to make sure that you add at least 3 important links. One is a public link to your repo. Make sure that it's public. If you submit a private repo, then judges will not be able to access it. So it sounds silly, but it's happened in the past. So make sure that your repo is public. So that's one. You need a video demo. So just show how the application works, and just present it and pitch it to us, as well as include a pitch deck. So what's your plan with the application, right? If you've got a working prototype and you've got a demo URL, you can also share that if you can. Otherwise, just make sure that your README is extremely clear. Okay, make sure that the README file on your repo just guides the judges on how they can deploy and run the application on their end. Okay, that's going to be super important, of course. And as a final note, I said it a million times, and I just want to make sure that you guys do join us on Telegram. You've got the link up there, and you can ask a lot more questions. Okay, this workshop was a bit of a midway point, trying to answer some of the general questions that people may have, and we've seen a few of you asking about this in the community. But of course, you may build your application slightly different. So do join us. Use the resources that we've got. You can go to academy.vechain.org to make use of these materials. You also have the entire team available that we could make available on Telegram as well as mentors that have made their schedule available to you that are working on the hackathon. So with that, we can bring it to a close. We've got also the official VeChain Builders Twitter account. There we go. So on Twitter, on the left QR code, where you can also come join us and keep up to date with not just the news about the hackathon, but also we're publishing regular updates and resources, tutorials on how to get you over the line to submit your application. Now, that is all for today's workshop. Short and sweet, covering the basics that you need to implement VeBetter, how to use Hardhat on your application, and to submit your application as well on VeBetter TESTNET, so you can get your app ID and include it on your application. Okay. For anything else, we are available to you guys. Please join us on Telegram, and I'm sounding like a broken record, but you've got less than 7 days. Submit it early, ask for advice, and we look forward to seeing what you are working on. So that's it from my side. If there's no questions, let me take a brief look once again. If there's anything, okay, I don't see anything on YouTube or Twitter. Great. If there's nothing on your sides, I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for joining. Really good to see there's so many of you watching. There's a lot of materials available. So please go. You'll find them on YouTube on VeChain Official. And you can also find them on the Hackathon resources page on academy.vechain.org. That's all for today, guys. Happy Monday. My name is Alex, and